Hi guys, welcome to this new video on Next.js 13. In this video, I will talk about how we can create API routes in Next.js 13. There are different ways we can utilize app directory of Next.js 13. So I've created this empty Next.js 13 project and I have not edited any layout or page.tsx file yet. And since we know that Next.js 13 gives us this app directory and inside it, we can follow different folder structures to create API route handlers. So I'll show you that what are the different folder structures, creating dynamic route handlers, receiving different IDs from the URLs, and how we can combine API routes with the routing structure of Next.js UI, the front end. Okay, so let's go and create a new folder inside it. The first of all, the recommended way in Next.js 13 is that we need to create an API folder within the app directory. Okay, and in this API folder, we can create a file name route.ts. Okay, since it is not a tsx, we won't be creating any UI, so we only be calling it .ts. If you are using JavaScript in Next.js 13, you will be giving it an extension .js. So this route.ts file is fixed. You cannot change its name, just like the page.tsx for the UI for different pages. Similar to that, we need to give it a name route.tsx. Okay, so we actually, there is one thing I would like to explain you guys. The same folder structure in the same directory, you cannot have the page.tsx and the route.tsx within the same file structure or within the same directory. Means these files should not exist parallel to each other. Otherwise, our compiler, the Next.js 13 compiler, will be get confused that whether it's an API route or if it's the front end browser route for loading the UI. Okay, so we need to separate out the route.tsx and page.tsx using the different folder structure. So first of all, let's come inside the route.tsx, and inside it we can import our request and response packages to actually receive the response from the APIs, from the client side, whoever is calling the API, and also return the response from the API. So actually utilize that, I'm going to write next/server, and it gives us next request and next response. Okay, and then in Next.js 13, if you remember and used to write API calls in the previous version of Next.js, you might remember that we were having a function called handler, and in that handler function we used to check the method of API call, whether it's get, put, post, patch, delete. But in this version of Next.js, it is actually giving us the direct function with the name of methods. So I'm going to write export async. I'm giving it an async keyword because inside it I can actually call an API that is returning a promise. Okay, so I needed to write a wait before those API calls. So get is the name, and you need to give it the same name with the capital letters get, and it will automatically be identified as a get request. So whatever we will write inside it, it will be called as get request. So I'm not going to call any API as of now, but in this video, I'll show you the different folder structures in Next.js 13 for creating API calls. Just for testing in this video, I will just return next response dot JSON, and inside it I can return any JSON object. So this is an ID which I have returned. Okay, and let's save it. I'm going to rerun this project of Next.js 13, and if I go to browser, you can see that this is the front end, but we have created our API which is currently on the route/API. Okay, the API is the directory which is considered as the route, just like the UI layout or the UI page that we create. So now I'm going to write slash API, and now you can see that it is behaving like an API, and whatever we are returning from that get requests, it is returning over here. And whoever is using this API, currently it's the public API. We have not set its any API key or the client ID. We have not actually secured our API, which I will be showing you in the upcoming videos. So now let's come here, and before actually writing further code inside it, I want to create more folder structure so that I can give you an idea what are the different ways of creating the API. So inside the API folder, I can have another folder. Let's say I can have the posts folder, and inside it I can have a different file. So I can have the route.ts file inside it directly, and I can have another folder, let's say a post folder. Okay, and inside the post folder I can have a route.ts file here. So if you remember from the Next.js 13 from my previous video, if we add the square brackets around the folder, it becomes a dynamic route. So this route is going to behave like the slash posts slash anything after that. It's a dynamic. So slash post slash 1 2 3 abc or anything comes within the post folder, and the route.tsx file, as I've already mentioned, is fixed. Okay, so I'm going to copy the same code over here and also over here. Okay, so now let's try to trigger these routes from the browser, and we can also trigger it from the postman. Because we are creating APIs, we can test it from the postman. Okay, so we have the slash API route, slash posts route, and then slash posts slash, uh, let me differentiate it. It is actually ID, this is the posts, and I'm going to give it a name, a post. Okay, so we can actually detect whether we are successfully triggering the correct API call. So API, if I refresh, it will keep on working as it is. So yeah, it's working. Now let's write posts, and it should print the ID colon posts just for identification whether uh, it's actually not triggering. This page is not found. So let's go ahead. So it's actually slash API. Okay, so I actually forgot to write slash API slash posts. So now you can see that this API is working fine. This is the get request, and after the post I can write anything because this is the dynamic route. I can pass one. Okay, so now you can see that our API routes are working fine, and all API routes are actually the get requests. Okay, so now let's figure out that we have actually created all the API calls within this API directory, but Next.js also allow us to create the API routes within the other folder structure along with the other UI layouts, UI pages, UI components. So if I want to create another route structure, let's say I have this posts folder, and inside it I can have a file. So route.ts. Okay, and inside it I'm going to copy this, paste, and here I can write post app. Okay, just to clear that which is in the app directory. So I'm going to save this file. Now I'm going to test this API removing the API keyword from the URL. Okay, and let's see if it works or not. Okay, so I've rerun the folder structure. Now I'm going to go to the browser, and I'm going to remove the API and also this posts. Okay, so I'll hit enter, and now you can see that this API is working fine even though I have added this route.ts file outside this API directory. Okay, but for the best practices I would suggest you guys to follow the API folder structure for creating the APIs. uh, because we want to separate out the APIs and the front end UI pages and the layouts. Okay. And the point that I was trying to mention at the start of this video, that we actually don't want to add a page.tsx file and the route.ts file parallel to each other within the same directory. Otherwise, the browser will get confused that whether it's I need to trigger the API or the page, because both are in the same directory. So to avoid this confusion, I would suggest you to follow the API folder structure. Okay, so for now I'm going to delete the page.tsx file from here. Okay, so now let's try to figure out that how we can get more and write code inside these requests. I'm not going to call any API inside it, but just to get few IDs inside it. So let's say that I'm here uh, within this slash API route for the APIs, and this is the file. And inside it, I'm actually calling the local host colon 3000 slash API, and this is the route. And let's say I want to give it an ID. So let's say an ID or any other search param, ID equals to 3. And what if I want to receive it inside the get request? So actually for receiving it, this get request actually gives us a request and then the request package. Okay. And now I can get this ID const and then the search params equals to new URL request dot URL. Okay. And then I can get the ID. I'm just logging it just for giving you an idea. So search params dot get ID. Okay. So let's save it, and I'm going to run the project again, and I need to trigger the slash API route, and I'll get back to this terminal and see if this ID is printed, whatever I'll pass from the browser. So let's come back to this API. So it's triggered. Let's come back. So it's null because I have not passed any ID to it. So if I want to pass the search, let's say ID equals to 6, and let's go to the terminal, and now you can see that it is printed 6. So we can get the search params using these two lines. Even if it's ID, it can be sort, it can be filter, skip, limit, whatever we are sending from the client side or the browser or Postman or any other front end application, or even within the same Next.js application. We can receive the IDs like this and pass it to the API or whatever we want to do with that. Okay, so we can use this technique in with other APIs, other folder structure as well. So for this video, let's now go to this post dynamic route, and I'll let you know how we can get the value of this dynamic route. So let's say that slash abcd slash 1234, whatever it is being passed to this dynamic post. Okay, so to actually get this, I'm coming over here. So in this route, which is in the directory slash API slash posts and slash something. Okay, so in this param, I first of all I'm going to write a request, and then I'm going to write context, then params, and for now I'm just giving it an any data type. Okay, and inside it I can actually give it context dot params and dot the name of this folder, which is the post currently. Okay, so I'm going to write post. So let's go to our browser and see if whatever we will pass to this route, it's printed over here. So API, first of all, slash API slash posts, and it should print the post because we are triggering the post route. And then let's go inside the uh, dynamic post route. So I'm going to pass any string inside it. So hit enter. So it has actually returned this and it's fine. Let's go to our terminal and now you can see that this string is being printed from here. So we are actually receiving the dynamic route from the context object which is provided in this get method. Okay, so for this video, that's pretty much it. I wanted to show you the different ways and different folder structure we can follow for creating the API routes. And in the next video, I will be writing the code inside these get requests and calling some API, setting some headers, and what are the different ways to return the response to the client side. And then we'll move forward to the other post, put, patch, delete methods, and further concepts inside these API route handlers in Next.js 13. So thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video.